The stars looked cold from the observation deck of the Aegis Dawn, stood near the glass, watching the distant lights of 1,000 suns. Behind him, the ship hummed with activity. Soldiers walked through the corridors. Engineers checked their machines. Doctors prepared their tools. The war against the hollow swarm had brought many species together, and now they all lived on this great ship, working side by side. Was a combat medic. His job was simple but dangerous. When soldiers fell in battle, he ran to them. He stopped their bleeding. He kept them alive until they could reach the medical bay. He had done this work for 3 years now, and his hands had saved many lives. He was also human, and that made him different from most others on the ship. Humans had joined the Galactic Alliance only 10 years ago. Before that, Earth had been alone, unaware of the great civilizations among the stars. When the hollow swarm began eating through solar systems, the Alliance came to Earth with a warning and an offer. "Join us," they said, "or die alone." Humanity chose to fight. But the other species did not think much of humans. They were too small, too weak. Their bodies broke easily and their lives were terribly short. An officer could live for 800 years. A human was lucky to see 100. To the older races, humans were like mayflies, here today and gone tomorrow. Knew what they thought of him. He saw it in their eyes. He heard it in their voices. But he did not care. He had something that mattered more than their respect. She came to him now, walking across the observation deck with 2 cups of tea in her hands. Her dark hair was tied back, and she wore the white coat of a. Her job was to study alien life, to understand the creatures of other worlds. She was brilliant, one of the best researchers on the ship. But too, she was simply his wife, the woman he loved more than anything in the universe. "You are thinking too much again," said, handing him a cup. Smiled, "How do you always know?" "Because you stand here and stare at stars when something bothers you." She stood beside him, looking out at the darkness. "What is it this time?" "Nothing important." He sighed. She always saw through him. "Commander Veeler spoke to me today. He asked why humans form marriages. He wanted to know why we tie ourselves to one person when our lives are so short." Sipped her tea. "And what did you tell him?" "I told him that love is not about time. It is about meaning." "That is a good answer." He did not understand it. Laughed softly. "They do not understand many things about us. They live so long that they have forgotten how to feel. Everything is logic to them, numbers and strategy. They see our emotions as weakness." Turned to look at her. In the light of distant stars, she was beautiful. After 5 years of marriage, she still made his heart beat faster. "Maybe they are right," he said quietly. "Maybe caring this much is a weakness." Shook her head. "No, caring is what makes us strong. It gives us something to fight for." She took his hand. "You fight harder because you want to come home to me. I work harder because I want to build a future with you. That is not weakness. That is power." Squeezed her hand. She was right. She was always right. A voice came through the ship's speakers. "All senior medical staff, report to briefing room 7. All senior medical staff, report to briefing room 7. Looked at, "That is me." "Go," she said. "I will wait for you." He kissed her forehead and walked away. The briefing room was full when arrived. Soldiers from 5 different species sat in rows of seats, their eyes fixed on the large screen at the front. Commander Veeler stood beside it, his tall gray body straight and still. They had no hair, no expressions that humans could read. Their faces were smooth like stone. "We have received a distress signal," Veeler said. His voice was flat without emotion. "Research Station Orion 7 has gone dark. 3 days ago, we lost all contact. Yesterday, our scouts confirmed the presence of the hollow swarm." A picture appeared on the screen. It showed a space station floating near a brown planet. Smoke rose from several sections. Parts of the structure had been torn open. "The station held important data," Veeler continued. "Research on swarm biology, possible weaknesses. If we can recover this data, it may help us win the war. A soldier raised her hand. She was like Veeler. What is the swarm presence level? High, we estimate several thousand individual units. Silence filled the room. Several thousand was a death sentence. I need volunteers for a ground team, Veeler said. The mission is dangerous. Many of you will not return, but the data must be recovered. Raised his hand. Veeler looked at him. Those cold gray eyes showed nothing. Human, you wish to volunteer? Yes, Commander, you will need a medic. Medics die first in swarm territory. They run toward the wounded. The swarm has learned to use this against us. I know, Commander, I still volunteer. Veeler stared at him for a long moment, then he nodded. Very well, you are on the team. After the briefing, found waiting for him in the corridor was an engineer, a human-like and his closest friend on the ship. They had grown up in the same city on Earth. They had joined the Alliance on the same day. You volunteered, said. It was not a question. Someone had to. It did not have to be you. Started walking toward his quarters, followed. The team needs a medic. I am a medic. It is simple. Nothing about this is simple. Grabbed his shoulder and stopped him. What about, have you told her? His face fell. Not yet. She will be angry. She will be scared. That is worse. Let go of his shoulder. His eyes were sad. You are my brother. Come back alive. That is all I ask. I will try. But even as he said the words, felt doubt in his heart. The hollow swarm did not leave survivors. Everyone knew this. The creatures were like a disease that ate everything in their path. They had destroyed entire planets, entire civilizations. He walked to his quarters where was waiting. She saw his face and knew immediately. You volunteered, she said. Yes. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply walked to him and wrapped her arms around him. Come back to me, she whispered against his chest. Promise me you will come back. Held her tight. He wanted to promise. He wanted to tell her that everything would be fine, but he could not lie to her. He had never lied to her. I will fight with everything I have, he said. I will fight to see you again. Looked up at him, her eyes wet with tears she refused to let fall. That is enough, she said. That is all I can ask. That night they held each other until the ship's lights dimmed for sleep. They did not talk about tomorrow. They did not talk about the mission. They simply existed together, two humans alone in the vast darkness of space, holding on to each other as if the universe might tear them apart. Because it might, and they both knew it. The dropship shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere, sat with his back against the cold metal wall, his medical bag strapped tight across his chest. Around him, 11 other soldiers prepared for battle. They checked their weapons. They tested their armor. They spoke in low voices about the mission ahead. Sat beside him. He had volunteered at the last moment, saying that the team needed an engineer to access the station's computers. Had tried to convince him to stay, but was stubborn. Someone has to watch your back, had said. Would never forgive me if I let you die alone. Now they sat together, two humans among aliens, falling toward a planet full of monsters. The pilot's voice came through the speakers. Landing in 3 minutes. Prepare for hot drop. A hot drop meant the swarm already knew they were coming. It meant they would be fighting the moment their feet touched the ground. Closed his eyes and thought of. She was on the Aegis Dawn, watching from the command deck. He had seen her face as the drop ship left the hangar. She had not cried. She had simply raised her hand and pressed it against the window, as if trying to reach him one last time. He had pressed his hand against the ship's window in return, a silent promise, a wordless goodbye. 1 minute to landing. Opened his eyes. Around him, the soldiers stood and formed 2 lines facing the back door. The ship's lights turned red, filling everything with the color of blood. 30 seconds. Took his place in line. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. He had trained for this. He had done this before. 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The door opened. Noise and chaos rushed in. The swarm was everywhere. They were creatures of nightmares with black bodies and too many legs. They moved like liquid, flowing over the ground and walls and everything in their path. Their mouths were filled with teeth. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. The soldiers opened fire. Bright lines of energy cut through the air. Swarm creatures fell and died, but more came, always more. Ran with the team toward the station entrance. A soldier fell beside him, screaming, a swarm creature on his back. Stopped, pulled the creature off, and killed it with his sidearm. He pressed a healing patch on the soldier's wound and pulled him to his feet. "Move," he shouted, "keep moving." They reached the station doors. Worked quickly, his fingers flying over the control panel. Swarm creatures rushed toward them from all directions. "Hurry," someone yelled. "Almost there," shouted back. The doors opened. The team rushed inside, sealed the doors behind them, and the sounds of the swarm faded to a distant scratching. They were inside, but they were not safe. The station was dark. Emergency lights gave a weak red glow. The floors were covered with old blood. Bodies lay in corners, torn apart and left to rot. The swarm had been here for days. "The data center is 2 levels down," the team leader said. He was a named, tall and cold like all his kind. "We move fast and quiet, kill only what we must. Our goal is the data, nothing else." They moved through the station like ghosts. Every corner could hide death. Every shadow could be a monster waiting to strike. Stayed in the middle of the group, ready to help anyone who fell. His eyes moved constantly, watching for danger, watching for the wounded. They found survivors on the 2nd level. 3 scientists hiding in a locked room. They were starving and terrified, but alive. Gave them food and water while worked to open the door to the lower levels. "The swarm is everywhere," one of the scientists whispered. "They come at night, they take people, we hear the screaming." "You are safe now," told her. "We will get you out." But even as he said the words, he heard something. A sound in the darkness. A clicking, like 1,000 insects rubbing their legs together. "They are coming," said. "Move now." They ran, down the stairs, through the corridors toward the data center. The clicking grew louder, closer. The walls themselves seemed to move. The swarm attacked from above. Creatures fell from the ceiling like rain. Soldiers screamed and fired. Bodies fell on both sides. Ran to a wounded soldier and started working, but a creature grabbed him from behind. He felt claws dig into his shoulder. He twisted, pulled his knife, and stabbed the thing in the eye. Was beside him suddenly, pulling him up. "Go, go." They ran. The data center was ahead, reached it first, forcing the door open with raw strength. The team rushed inside, sealed the door. But not everyone had made it. Counted, 8 soldiers had entered the station. Only 5 stood in the data center now. The 3 scientists were with them, shaking with fear. "Get the data," ordered. "We leave in 10 minutes." Ran to the main computer. His fingers worked the controls. "The files are corrupted. I need time to recover them." "You have 10 minutes. Moved among the wounded, treating their injuries. One soldier had deep cuts across her stomach. Another had lost 2 fingers. He worked quickly, using everything in his medical bag. Outside, the swarm scratched at the door. The metal groaned under their weight. 5 minutes, said. "I need more time," shouted. "You do not have it." The door bent inward. Claws broke through the metal. "I have it," pulled a small data chip from the computer. "I have the data." The door exploded open. Swarm creatures flooded into the room, died first, torn apart in seconds, then another soldier, then another. "Fall back," screamed. "The emergency exit." Led the way, blasting open a service door. They ran through a narrow tunnel, the swarm close behind. The scientists could not keep up. One of them fell, and before could help her, she was gone. They reached the surface. The dropship was waiting, engines running, door open. But it was too far, 50 meters of open ground. The swarm was everywhere. "Go," shouted, "I will cover you." He turned and fired into the mass of creatures, grabbed his arm. "Come with us. Someone has to hold them. Take the data, complete the mission." A swarm creature slammed into, knocking him to the ground. Killed it, but not before its claws had torn through his leg. Blood poured from the wound. Lifted his friend onto his shoulders. "I am not leaving you." He ran. He ran with everything he had, carrying across the open ground. Swarm creatures rushed toward them. Soldiers on the drop ship fired, creating a path of dead bodies. Reached the ship. He threw inside. The scientists scrambled in behind him. But more creatures were coming. Hundreds of them, thousands. "We cannot take off," the pilot shouted. "They are on the ship." Looked at the creatures climbing the hull. He looked at, bleeding on the floor. He looked at the data chip in his friend's hand. He made his choice. "Seal the door," he shouted. "Take off now." "What about you?" Jumped off the ship. He fired his weapon into the creatures on the hull. They fell, one by one. The ship began to rise. Screamed from inside, "No." The door sealed. The ship rose higher. Kept firing, drawing the swarm away from the ship toward himself. On the command deck of the Aegis Dawn, watched everything through the tactical display. She saw the ship take off. She saw her husband standing alone on the ground, surrounded by monsters. She saw the explosion of swarm creatures as they rushed toward him. Then the signal went dark. "No," whispered, "no, no, no." Commander Veeler stood beside her, watching the same screen. "The dropship is returning with the data. The mission was a success." "Where is," her voice was shaking, "where is my husband?" Veeler looked at her with those cold gray eyes. "He did not board the ship." The world stopped, felt her heart break into 1,000 pieces. "He is still down there." Negative. The swarm would have killed him within minutes of the ship's departure. "Based on all available data, your husband is dead." Stared at him, she could not speak, she could not breathe. On the planet below, fire and death covered the ground. And somewhere in that chaos, fought alone, his thoughts on the woman he loved, praying that his sacrifice would mean something. Praying that she would forgive him for not coming home. 3 days passed without word from the planet. 3 days of silence. 3 days of darkness. Did not leave her quarters. She sat on the bed she had shared with, holding his jacket against her chest. It still smelled like him, like earth and medicine and home. The Alliance had declared him killed in action on the first day. They had sent a message to her tablet, formal and cold. "We regret to inform you that Private First Class Park has been declared deceased. His sacrifice will be remembered." Had thrown the tablet against the wall. It had shattered into 100 pieces. She did not care. People came to see her, came first, still limping from his wounds. He sat beside her and cried. He blamed himself. He said it should have been him. Held his hand and told him it was not his fault, but she did not feel anything. She was empty inside. Other humans came too. Scientists she worked with, soldiers who had known. They brought food she did not eat. They spoke words she did not hear. They touched her shoulder and said they were sorry, so sorry. But none of them understood. She had known since they were children. They had grown up together in a small town near the sea. She remembered the first time she saw him, a skinny boy with messy hair trying to catch fish with his bare hands. She had laughed at him. He had splashed water at her. They had been inseparable ever since. They had married young before the war, before the aliens came. Their wedding was small, just family and friends in a garden full of flowers. Had cried when he said his vows. She had teased him about it for years. Now she would never tease him again. She did not eat. She did not sleep. She sat in the dark and watched the stars through the window, wondering which one was closest to the planet where her husband died. On the fourth day, Commander Veeler came to see her. He stood in the doorway, tall and gray, his face blank as always, did not look at him. "Dr. Park," he said. His voice was flat without feeling. "I have been told that you have not reported for work in 4 days. My husband is dead." "Yes, this is known." "Then you know why I am not working." Veeler stepped into the room. He looked around, studying the darkness, the untouched food, the broken tablet on the floor. "I do not understand," he said. "Among my people death is accepted. We mourn for 1 day, then we continue. Life must go on." Finally looked at him. Her eyes were red from crying, hollow from not sleeping. "Your people live for 800 years, she said. "You have time. You can find new bonds, new connections. You can wait for the pain to fade. And humans cannot." "Was my other half, my partner, my best friend." Her voice cracked. "I have known him since I was 6 years old. I have loved him for 20 years. He was not just my husband. He was my home." Veeler tilted his head. "Home is a place. Your husband was a person." "You do not understand." "Then explain." Stood up, she walked to the window and pressed her hand against the cold glass. "When I was with him, I was complete. When he smiled, I felt joy. When he hurt, I felt pain. We were connected in a way that has no words." She turned to look at Veeler. "Now that connection is broken. A part of me is missing, and it will never come back." Veeler was silent for a long moment. His gray eyes studied her, trying to understand something beyond his experience. We believe that attachment causes suffering. We train ourselves to be free of such bonds. We live longer because we do not feel so deeply." "That sounds lonely." "It is practical." Shook her head. "It is empty. What is the point of living 800 years if you never truly love anyone? What is the point of a long life if it means nothing? Survival means everything. Individual emotions do not." "To you, not to me." Sat down again, pulling his jacket around her shoulders. "I would rather have 50 years of real love than 1,000 years of nothing." Veeler did not respond immediately. He seemed to be processing her words, turning them over in his mind like a puzzle he could not solve. "The Alliance has told you to accept his death," he finally said. "I know." "They have told you to move forward." "I know." "Will you do this?" Was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I cannot." "Why?" "Because something inside me refuses to believe he is gone. I feel him, Veeler. I know that makes no sense. I know it is not logical, but I feel him. Somewhere, somehow, he is still alive." Veeler studied her. "This is not possible. The survival rate for isolated personnel in swarm territory is 0%. No one has ever survived more than a few hours." "Is not no one, he is my husband." "That does not change the numbers." "It changes everything." Veeler shook his head slowly. "You are letting emotion cloud your judgment. This is exactly why they view human attachment as a weakness. It makes you irrational. It makes you see things that are not there." Stood up again. This time there was fire in her eyes, a spark of something that had been missing for days. "Maybe you are right. Maybe I am irrational. Maybe I am weak." She stepped closer to Veeler, looking up at his towering form without fear. "But if there is even the smallest chance that is alive, I will not give up on him. I will search every corner of that planet. I will fight every monster in my path. I will die before I stop looking for him." Veeler blinked. It was the first sign of emotion he had shown. "That is illogical. That is love." She pushed past him and walked out of the room. For the first time in 4 days, she had a purpose. The command center was busy when arrived. Officers from a dozen species monitored screens and coordinated fleet movements. No one noticed her at first. She walked to the sensor station and began entering commands. The technician beside her looked up in surprise. "Dr. Park, what are you doing?" "Scanning the planet, looking for human life signs." "But the planet has been classified as lost. We are not supposed to waste resources on." "I am not asking for permission." The technician looked uncertain, but something in his eyes stopped him from arguing. He stepped back and let her work. Scanned sector by sector. The planet was large and the swarm interference made the sensors almost useless, but she kept trying, hour after hour. Her eyes burned, her hands shook, but she did not stop. Other humans came to help, limped over and sat beside her, running his own scans. Scientists from her lab joined one by one. They worked through the night, searching for any sign of life. The officers watched with confusion. They whispered to each other about the strange human behavior. They did not understand why so many would waste their time on something so pointless. But Wheeler watched in silence. He stood at the back of the room, his gray eyes following every movement. He saw something in her that he had never seen before, something beyond logic, beyond reason, something that burned like a star in the darkness. He did not understand it. But for the first time in his long life, he wanted to. At the end of the 7th day, when everyone else had given up hope, found something. A faint signal, almost invisible in the storm of interference. A personal distress beacon, military issue. "Beacon." Stared at the screen, her heart pounding. "He is alive," she whispered. "He is alive." The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. Rushed to her side. "Are you sure?" "It is his beacon, his personal code." Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. "He is alive." Wheeler stepped forward. He looked at the screen, then at. "One signal does not prove survival. The beacon could be active while the soldier is dead." "Then we need to find out." "The planet is too dangerous. Command will never approve a rescue mission." Turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with determination. "Then I will not ask command. I will go myself." Wheeler stared at her. "You will die." "Maybe, but I will not leave him there, not while there is any chance." She grabbed his arm, something no human had ever dared to do. "You wanted to understand why we feel so deeply. This is why, because love makes us brave, because love makes us do impossible things." She let go and walked toward the door. "I am going to save my husband, with or without help." The room was silent as she left. No one knew what to say. But in the back of the room turned to look at Wheeler. Their eyes met. "Do you understand now?" asked quietly. Wheeler said nothing for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "No," he admitted, "but I am beginning to." Did not sleep that night. She sat in her quarters planning. She had no military training. She had never fired a weapon in combat. She had no idea how to survive on a swarm-infested planet. But none of that mattered. Was alive. She could feel it in her bones. The signal was weak, barely visible on the sensors. It came from the northern mountains, far from the research station where the original mission had taken place. Somehow, had survived the attack and traveled almost 30 kilometers through hostile territory. She did not know how. She did not care. She only knew that she had to reach him. The next morning, she went to the command office and requested a rescue mission. She spoke calmly, professionally, presenting her data with the cold logic she knew the respected. Admiral, the highest ranking on the ship, listened without expression. "Your request is," he said when she finished. Felt her heart drop. "Admiral, please, the signal is real. He is alive." One human soldier is not worth the resources required for a rescue operation. The planet is classified as lost. We have already pulled all surviving assets from the system. We cannot just leave him there. "We can and we will." Admiral turned away, dismissing her. "Return to your duties, Dr. Park. This matter is closed." Stood frozen for a moment. Anger burned inside her chest. She wanted to scream, to argue, to fight. but she knew it would do no good. They did not respond to emotion, they saw it as noise. She left the command office and walked to the hangar bay. The shuttles were lined up in neat rows, small transport vessels used for short-range missions. Each one was equipped with basic weapons and enough fuel to reach the planet and return. Had access to the hangar. As a senior scientist, she had clearance to use the shuttles for research purposes. She had never thought about using that access for anything else. Until now. She walked to the nearest shuttle and began her pre-flight check. Her hands moved automatically, following procedures she had learned years ago. Start the engines, check the fuel, load the navigation system. What are you doing? Turned, stood behind her, leaning on a walking stick. His wounded leg was wrapped in bandages, but he had refused to stay in the medical bay. I am going to save my husband. Alone with no weapons, no combat training. Yes. Stared at her, then he laughed a short, sad sound. You are crazy. Maybe. You will die down there. Maybe. Was quiet for a moment. Then he limped toward her and climbed into the shuttle. What are you doing? Asked. Coming with you. You can barely walk. I can still shoot. He settled into the co-pilot seat and began checking his own controls. Saved my life. I am not going to let his wife die alone. Wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him to stay, to be safe. But she saw the look in his eyes and knew it would be pointless. Thank you, she whispered. Thank me when we get back. She was about to start the engines when a voice cut through the hangar. Stop. Looked up. Commander Veeler walked toward them, his gray robes flowing behind him. His face was as blank as ever, but there was something different in his eyes, something she had not seen before. You cannot stop me, said. I will not let you. I am not here to stop you. She blinked, then why? Veeler stopped beside the shuttle. He looked at her, then back at her. I have been thinking about what you said, about love, about doing impossible things. He paused. I have lived for 700 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched billions die in wars that no one remembers. What is your point? My point is that in all those years I have never seen anyone do what you are doing. Risk everything for one person. Defy orders, defy logic, defy death itself. All for love. Met his eyes, and you still think it is weakness. Veeler was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he shook his head. I do not know what to think. That is why I am here. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small device. This is a command override. It will give you access to a military shuttle with full weapons and shielding. It will also disable the tracking systems so command cannot find you until it is too late. Stared at the device. Why are you helping me? Because I want to understand. I have spent centuries studying humans, reading your history, watching your behavior, but I have never truly understood you, your passion, your fire, your willingness to die for things that logic says do not matter. He pressed the device into her hand. Perhaps if I help you, I will finally understand. Leaned forward. You could lose your position for this. Command will know you helped us. I am 700 years old. I have had many positions. I can find another. Veeler stepped back. Go, save your husband. Show me what humanity is really made of. Looked at the device in her hand. Then she looked at Veeler. Thank you, she said. I will not forget this. Just come back alive, both of you, all three of you. Nodded. She switched shuttles, moving to a sleek military vessel with heavy weapons and reinforced armor. Followed, settling into the weapons station. Are you ready? She asked. No, he admitted, but let's go anyway. She started the engines. The hangar doors opened. The stars waited beyond. As the shuttle launched into space, Veeler watched from the observation deck. Other officers stood beside him, confused by what they had just witnessed. Commander, one of them said, you helped them escape. You violated direct orders from the Admiral." "I did." "Why?" Wheeler did not answer immediately. He watched the shuttle grow smaller, a tiny light against the infinite darkness. "Because sometimes," he said quietly, "logic is not enough." The planet grew larger. It was brown and dead, covered in clouds of toxic gas. Nothing should survive down there, nothing except the swarm. "And the signal is coming from those mountains," said, pointing to a jagged range near the northern pole. "It looks like he found some kind of shelter, maybe an old mining facility." "Can we land nearby?" "There is a flat area about 2 kilometers from the signal, best I can find." "Then that is where we go." The shuttle descended through the atmosphere. The hull shook and groaned under the pressure. Warning lights flashed. Alarms screamed. Gripped the controls and held on. They broke through the clouds. The ground rushed up to meet them. Saw the swarm below, thousands of dark shapes moving across the landscape like a living tide. "They see us," said. "They are coming." "Hold on." She landed hard, the shuttle slamming into the rocky ground. Dust and debris flew everywhere. The engine screamed and then went quiet. For a moment there was silence. Then the swarm hit them. Creatures crashed against the shuttle, clawing at the hull, trying to break through. The metal groaned under their weight. Fired the weapons, cutting through the mass of bodies, but more kept coming. "We need to move," said, "now." She grabbed a rifle from the weapons locker, checked the charge, and opened the rear door. Cold air rushed in, filled with the smell of death. "Stay close," she told. "We move fast, we stay quiet." "Quiet?" He gestured at the horde of monsters surrounding them. "I think they already know we are here." Almost smiled, almost. They ran. The mountains were ahead, dark and jagged against the gray sky. The swarm followed, but the rough terrain slowed them down, and climbed over rocks and through narrow passages, putting distance between themselves and the monsters. Every step brought them closer to. Every step brought them closer to the impossible. After an hour of running, they reached a cave entrance. The signal was coming from inside. Stopped at the entrance. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. After all this time, after all the pain and fear and desperation, she was finally here. She called into the darkness, "Are you there?" Silence. Then from deep within the cave, a voice, weak, broken but alive. She ran into the darkness without thinking, called after her, but she did not hear him. She could only hear that voice, her husband's voice, calling her name. She found him in a small chamber lit by a dying emergency light. He was lying against the wall, covered in blood and dirt. His uniform was torn. His face was pale, but his eyes were open, and when he saw her, they filled with tears. "You came," he whispered. "You actually came." Fell to her knees beside him. She took his face in her hands, touching him, making sure he was real. "Of course I came," she said, crying. "I will always come for you." Tried to smile, but it turned into a cough. Blood flecked his lips. "I tried to stay alive," he said. "I promised you I would fight, but I am so tired." "Do not give up now. We are here. We are going to take you home." Appeared behind her, his face grim. He looked at its wounds and shook his head. "He is in bad shape. Internal bleeding, infection, radiation exposure. We need to get him to the ship immediately." Then we moved now, started to lift, but he grabbed her arm. "The swarm is coming. I heard them. They followed you here." As if on cue, the clicking sound filled the cave. That terrible, familiar sound. She looked at. She looked at the rifle in her hands. "Then we fight our way out," she said. And in the darkness, the monsters closed in. The clicking grew louder. It echoed off the cave walls, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Could feel the vibration in her bones. "We need to move," said. He was checking his weapon, making sure it was ready. "Can he walk?" Looked at, his eyes were half closed, his breathing shallow. He had survived for 7 days in this cave, fighting off swarm scouts, treating his own wounds with a single. His body had nothing left. "I do not think so," she said. "Then we carry him." His hand found hers. His grip was weak but warm. "Leave me," he whispered. "Save yourselves, I am already dead." "No," his voice was firm. "I did not come this far to leave you. I did not steal a shuttle and fly across space and fight through monsters to watch you die in a cave." "No," she pulled him up, draping his arm over her shoulder. "Take his other side." Grabbed his other arm. Together they lifted him to his feet, groaned in pain, but he stayed upright. "The shuttle is 2 kilometers away," said, "through swarm territory, with a wounded man and limited ammunition. Then we better move fast." They started toward the cave entrance. The clicking followed them, always just behind, always just out of sight, kept her eyes forward, her rifle ready. The first swarm creature appeared at the cave mouth, blocking their path. It was smaller than the one she had seen in the videos, maybe a scout. Its black body glistened in the dim light, and its red eyes fixed on them with hungry intelligence. Fired, the creature exploded into fragments of chitin and dark fluid. "Move," shouted. They ran, half carrying between them. More creatures appeared, crawling out of cracks in the walls, dropping from the ceiling. Fired behind them, covering their retreat, focused on the path ahead. They burst out of the cave into the gray daylight. The mountains stretched around them, jagged and lifeless. In the distance, could see the smoke from their crashed shuttle. "This way," said, "I remember the path." They moved as fast as they could with between them. He was trying to help, forcing his broken body to take steps, but each one seemed to drain him further. His skin was pale, almost gray. His breathing came in short, painful gasps. "Talk to me," said. "Stay with me." "I am here," whispered. "I am trying. Tell me about home. Tell me about the beach where we got married." Was quiet for a moment. Then slowly he began to speak. "It was raining that morning. You were so angry. You said the weather had ruined everything. Smiled despite the situation. And you said a little rain would not stop us. We got married in the rain. Your dress was soaked. My hair was everywhere." He laughed weakly. "It was perfect." "It was. I think about that day all the time. When the swarm came, when I was alone in that cave, I thought about that day. I thought about how you looked at me when you said your vows. I thought about how happy we were." Tears ran down his face, but she kept moving. "We will be that happy again, I promise." The swarm caught up to them, halfway down the mountain. Creatures poured over the rocks, hundreds of them moving like a black wave. Turned and fired, cutting a path through the bodies. But for every one he killed, 10 more appeared. "There are too many," he shouted. "We cannot fight them all." "We do not have to fight them all. We just have to reach the shuttle." The shuttle was visible now, a dark shape against the rocky ground. It was damaged but intact. If they could reach it, they could take off. They could escape. A creature lunged at from the left. She spun and fired, but the shot went wide. The thing slammed into her, knocking her to the ground. Its claws tore at her arm and she screamed. Fell beside her, too weak to stand without support. He reached for a rock, anything he could use as a weapon, but his hands found nothing. Appeared above her, smashing the creature with the butt of his rifle. It fell away, twitching, and he pulled to her feet. "Keep moving," he said. "We are almost there." Blood ran down his arm, but she ignored it. She grabbed again, lifting him with strength she did not know she had. "Come on," she said, "just a little further." They reached the shuttle, ran to the cockpit and started the engines, pulled inside and sealed the door behind them. Outside, the swarm crashed against the hull. The whole ship shook with the force of their assault. Taking off, shouted, "Hold on." The engines roared. The shuttle lifted, slowly at first, then faster. Creatures clung to the hull, trying to break through, but the ship's weapons fired automatically, shaking them loose. They rose through the clouds. The planet fell away below them. The stars appeared cold and bright. They had made it. Collapsed beside, she was shaking, crying, laughing all at once. They had done it. Against all odds, they had done the impossible. But was not celebrating. His eyes were closed, his body still. Touched his face, "Wake up." He did not respond. "No," she shook him gently at first, then harder. "No, no, no, not now, not after everything." Appeared beside her. He pressed his fingers to his neck, checking for a pulse. "He is alive," he said, "but barely. His body is shutting down. We need to get him to the medical bay immediately." "How long do we have?" "Maybe an hour, maybe less." Looked out the window. The Aegis Dawn was visible in the distance, a massive ship floating among the stars. It seemed impossibly far away. "Can we make it?" "I do not know, but I am going to try." Push the engines to their limit. The shuttle screamed through space, racing against time. Stayed beside, holding his hand, whispering to him. "Stay with me," she said. "We are almost home. Just hold on a little longer." His eyes opened just for a moment. They were cloudy, unfocused, but they found her face. He whispered, "I am here. I am right here. I love you. I love you too, so much. That is why you have to fight. That is why you cannot give up." He tried to smile. "I am so tired." "I know, but you promised me. You promised you would fight to come back to me." "I did." "Then keep fighting. For me, for us, for everything we are going to have together." His eyes closed again, but his hand squeezed hers, weak but present. He was still there, still fighting. The Aegis Dawn grew larger in the contacted the ship, requesting emergency medical assistance. A team was waiting in the hangar when they landed. They rushed to the medical bay, running beside the stretcher. The doctors worked quickly, hooking him up to machines, pumping fluids into his veins. Stood in the corner, watching, praying, hopping. Commander Veeler appeared beside her. She did not know when he had arrived. "You found him," he said. "Yes." "And you brought him home." "Yes." Veeler looked then at. His gray face showed nothing, but his eyes were different, softer somehow. "In 700 years, he said quietly, "I have never seen anything like what you did." Shook her head. "I did not do anything special, I just loved him." "That is what I mean." The doctors finished their emergency treatment. One of them approached, his face tired but hopeful. "He is stable," the doctor said. "The next few hours will be critical, but I think he is going to make it." Felt her legs give out. Veeler caught her before she fell. "He is alive," she whispered. "He is alive." Veeler helped her to a chair beside bed. She took her husband's hand and held it tight. "I told you," she said to him, even though he could not hear her. "I told you I would never give up." Veeler watched from the doorway for a long moment. Then, quietly, he turned and walked away. He had spent centuries studying humans. He had read their books, watched their wars, analyzed their behavior, but he had never understood them. Until now. Love, he thought, that is what makes them different, not strength, not intelligence, not numbers, love. It made them do impossible things. And for the first time in his long life, Commander Veeler felt something he could not name, something warm, something new, something almost human. The medical bay was quiet except for the steady beeping of machines. Sat beside his bed, holding his hand, watching his chest rise and fall with each shallow breath. It had been 6 hours since they returned from the planet. 6 hours since the doctors had cut him open and repaired the damage inside. 6 hours since she had heard him say her name. He had not woken up since. The doctors said his body was fighting. They said the infection was severe, the radiation damage extensive. They said his heart had stopped twice during surgery. They had brought him back both times, but they could not promise anything. "He is strong," they told her. "If anyone can survive this, he can." but could see the doubt in their eyes. They did not think he would make it. She refused to believe them. Came to visit. He sat beside her for a long time, not speaking, just being there. His leg was wrapped in fresh bandages, but he had refused to stay in his own bed. "He saved my life," said finally. "On the planet when the swarm attacked, he could have run. He could have reached the shuttle without me, but he stayed. He carried me. That is who he is. I know, I have known him since we were children, but I never really understood until that moment." He looked at its pale face. "He is the best man I know." "Yes, he is." Squeezed her shoulder. "He is going to make it, I believe that." "So do I." After left was alone again. The ship hummed around her, thousands of people going about their lives. But in this small room time had stopped. She thought about all the things she had never said, all the moments she had taken for granted, all the times she had been too tired or too busy to tell him how much he meant to her. She thought about the future they had planned, a house on Earth near the beach where they got married, children maybe if they were lucky, a garden where they would grow vegetables and flowers, a life. Now that future was hanging by a thread. "Please," she whispered to no one, "please do not take him from me." The machines beeped. His eyes remained closed. Commander Veeler visited in the night. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her. She did not look up. "You should rest," he said finally. "You have been here for many hours." "I cannot leave him. The doctors are monitoring his condition. They will call you if anything changes." "I know, but I cannot leave him." Veeler stepped into the room. He moved slowly, as if unsure of his place here. "When I was young," he said, "before I joined the military, I had a bond partner. We called her. She was kind and wise, and I thought we would be together forever." Looked up, surprised. She had never heard Veeler speak about his personal life. "What happened to her?" "She died. A disease that spread through our colony. I survived. She did not." Veeler's voice was flat, but there was something beneath it, an old pain buried deep. "After she died, I decided I would never bond with another. The pain was too great. I thought it was better to be alone." "And was it better?" Veeler was quiet for a long moment. "I thought so. For many centuries I thought so. But now, watching you," he shook his head, "I am not sure anymore." Turned back to. His face was peaceful in sleep, but his breathing was getting weaker. "The belief that attachment causes suffering," Veeler continued. "They teach us to avoid it, to be free. But I wonder now if that is wisdom or cowardice." "It is neither," said. "It is just different. Your people made a choice based on their own experience, but it is not the only choice." "What choice did you make?" Lifted his hand to her lips and kissed it gently. "I chose to love completely, to give everything, even though I knew it would hurt." She looked at Veeler with tears in her eyes. "And I would make that choice again, even now, even knowing I might lose him." Veeler studied her face. "You are remarkable." "I am just human." "Perhaps that is what makes you remarkable." The machines began to beep faster. Alarms sounded. The screen besides bed flashed red. Jumped to her feet. "What is happening?" Doctors rushed into the room, pushing past Veeler. They surrounded the bed, shouting orders, working frantically. "His heart is failing," one of them said. "We are losing him." "No," grabbed the nearest doctor. "You cannot let him die. Do something." "We are trying. Please step back." Veeler pulled her away gently but firmly. She struggled against him, but his grip was like iron. "Let them work," he said. "He is dying. My husband is dying. They are doing everything they can. Stop struggling." She stood frozen, watching the doctors fight for life. Their hands moved quickly, injecting drugs, adjusting machines, pressing on his chest. The beeping grew weaker. "Come on," one of the doctors muttered. "Come on, stay with us." Felt the world closing in around her. This could not be happening. Not after everything they had survived. Not after the mission, the rescue, the impossible escape. He could not die now. She pulled free from Veeler and ran to the bedside. She pushed past the doctors and Grab's hand. "Fight," she said, her voice breaking. "You promised me, you promised you would fight." The doctors tried to pull her away, but she held on. "I am not leaving you," she said. "I will never leave you, but you have to fight for me, for us." The beeping slowed further. His body was giving up. Felt tears streaming down her face. She leaned close to his ear, whispering words only he could hear. "I love you. I have always loved you. From the moment I saw you trying to catch fish with your hands." She laughed through her tears. "You were so stupid and so beautiful, and I knew right then that I would love you forever." The machine screamed. The line on the screen went flat. "We are losing him," a doctor shouted. Held his hand. She watched his face, watching for any sign of life, any flicker of consciousness. And then seeing him struggle, she whispered, "I can't live without him." The words hung in the air like a prayer. For a long moment nothing happened. The machine screamed. The doctors worked, held on. Then slowly, impossibly, the line on the screen began to move. A beat, then another, then another. "We have a pulse," someone said. "He is coming back." Collapsed over his body, sobbing. The doctors continued their work, stabilizing him, but the worst was over. His heart was beating again. He was alive. Veeler stood in the corner, watching. He had witnessed many battles in his 700 years. He had seen armies clash and empires fall. He had watched billions die. But he had never seen anything like this. A woman's love, strong enough to call a man back from death. He thought about the centuries he had spent running from pain, about the cold emptiness he had mistaken for peace. Maybe he had been wrong. Maybe they had been wrong. Maybe love was not a weakness at all. Maybe it was the strongest force in the universe. The doctors finished their work and stepped back. Was stable again, his vital signs weak but steady. Sat beside him, still holding his hand, still crying. Veeler walked to her side. He did not speak. He simply placed his hand on her shoulder, a gesture of solidarity, of understanding. Looked up at him. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. "He is alive," she said. "Yes, because of you." She shook her head. "Because of love." Veeler nodded slowly. "Yes, because of love." He left her then, walking out of the medical bay and into the corridor. The ship hummed around him, full of life and noise and activity, but he felt different now. Changed. For the first time in 700 years, Commander Veeler felt hope. 3 weeks passed. The Aegis Dawn continued its mission through the stars, hunting the Hollow Swarm, defending the Alliance. But in a small room in the medical bay, the war felt very far away. Was sitting up for the first time. His body was still weak, his movements slow and careful, but his eyes were bright again and his smile was real. Sat beside him, peeling fruit and handing him small pieces. She had not left the medical bay for more than an hour at a time since the night his heart stopped. The doctors had tried to make her rest, but she had refused. "You do not have to stay every moment," said. "I am not going anywhere." "I know, but I want to be here." "You must be tired." Smiled and kissed his forehead. "I am, but I have the rest of my life to sleep. Right now I just want to be with you." Took her hand. His grip was stronger now, almost like before. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For coming for me, for not giving up, for believing I was alive when everyone else said I was dead." His eyes grew wet. "Of course I came, I will always come." "I know, I knew it even when I was in that cave, alone, dying. I thought about you every moment. I thought about your face, your voice, the way you laugh at my bad jokes. And I kept fighting because I knew you would never stop looking for me. I would never stop, never." Pulled her close and held her. They stayed like that for a long time, not speaking, just existing together. The universe could have ended around them and they would not have noticed. Visited often. His leg was healing well, and he had returned to duty in the engineering department. But every evening he came to sit with and, bringing food and stories and news from the ship. "You are famous now," he told one night. "The human who survived alone in swarm territory for 7 days. The soldiers call you the unkillable." Laughed, then winced at the pain in his chest. "That is a stupid name." "I agree, but they love it." "And what do they call?" Grinned, "The Mad Woman of Orion 7, because she stole a shuttle and flew into hell to save you." Smiled, "I prefer that one." "You would." The story had spread through the fleet. Humans whispered about it in the corridors. Soldiers from other species discussed it in the mess halls. A woman with no combat training had orders, stolen a military shuttle, and rescued her husband from a planet full of monsters. It was impossible. It was insane. It was the most human thing any of them had ever heard. Commander Veeler came to visit on the day was released from the medical bay. He stood in the doorway, tall and gray, watching as helped her husband into a wheelchair. "Private Park," he said formally, "I am pleased to see you recovering." Looked up at the commander. "Thank you, sir, and thank you for helping my wife. She told me what you did." Veeler nodded slightly. "It was the least I could do." "You broke orders. You risked your career. You could have been punished for helping her." "I was. Admiral has removed me from command. I am to be reassigned to a training facility on the—" His face fell. "Veeler, I am so sorry. This is my fault." "No," Veeler shook his head slowly. "It is not your fault. It is my choice, and I do not regret it." "But your career—" "I have had many careers. I will have more." He stepped into the room and looked at them both. "What I learned from you is worth more than any position." Reached out and took his hand. "What did you learn?" Veeler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, almost warm. "I have lived for 700 years. I have commanded fleets and armies. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I have studied every species in the Alliance, learned their languages, read their histories, observed their customs." He paused. "But I never understood humanity. Your passion seemed like chaos. Your emotions seemed like weakness. Your short lives seemed like a waste." Started to speak, but Veeler held up his hand. "I was wrong. I understand that now." He looked at them with those ancient gray eyes. "Your lives are short, but you do not waste them. You love fiercely. You fight desperately. You risk everything for the people who matter to you. In your few decades, you experience more than the feel in centuries." He turned too. "When you whispered those words in the medical bay, I cannot live without him. I felt something I had not felt in 600 years. Envy." Blinked. "Envy?" "Yes, because I realized that you have something I lost long ago. Something I thought was weakness but is actually strength." He bowed his head, a gesture of deep respect. "Love, pure, desperate, overwhelming love. The kind that makes you do impossible things. The kind that brings dead men back to life." Silence filled the room, then spoke. "You said you had a bond partner once." Veeler looked surprised. "Your wife told you." "She did, and I am sorry for your loss." "It was long ago." "That does not make it hurt less." Veeler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice cracked just barely. "No, it does not." Stood and walked to him. She was tiny compared to his tall form, but she reached up and placed her hand on his arm. "You loved her," she said gently. "That was not weakness. That was the best part of you." Veeler looked down at her. For the first time since had known him, his stone face showed emotion. Not much, but something. A softness around the eyes, a slight tremor in his jaw. "Perhaps you are right," he said quietly. "I am." Veeler reached into his robe and pulled out a small object. It was a stone, smooth and blue, carved with symbols. "This was hers," he said. "She gave it to me before she died. I have carried it for 600 years but never looked at it. The pain was too great. He pressed it into his hand. I want you to have it. I cannot. Please take it. And when you look at it, remember what you taught me. That love is not weakness. That feeling deeply is not a flaw. That a short life, lived fully, is worth more than centuries of emptiness. Closed her fingers around the stone. It was warm, despite its appearance. She looked up at Veeler with tears in her eyes. Thank you. Veeler nodded once, then turned to leave. At the door, he stopped and looked back. I was wrong about humanity, he said. You are not small. You are not weak. You burn bright even if you burn quickly, and the universe is better for having you in it. Then he was gone. Returned to side. She showed him the stone, turning it over in her hands. The symbols glowed faintly in the light. What does it say? Asked. Traced the carvings with her finger. I do not know, but I think it means love, in whatever language they used to have for that. Smiled and pulled her close. Come here. She climbed into the wheelchair with him. Both of them squeezed together, laughing at the absurdity of it. We made it, he said. We did. What now? Thought about it, the war was still going. The swarm was still out there. They were still on a ship in the middle of hostile space, surrounded by danger. But none of that mattered, not right now. Now we live, she said. We love each other, we fight for each other, and we never forget what we have. Kissed her long and slow. I can do that, he said. Good, because you are stuck with me. I know, it is the best kind of stuck. They stayed there until the ship's lights dimmed for night, two humans alone in the vast darkness of space, holding onto each other like the universe depended on it. And maybe, in some small way, it did. Because love was not weakness. Love was power. Love was the reason humanity fought, the reason they survived, the reason they kept going against impossible odds. And as long as they loved each other, nothing in the universe could stop them. Not the swarm, not the darkness, not even death itself. Because love was stronger than all of it. And it always would be.